I lost my childhood friends. I had a great friend group with people I knew very well and trusted immensely. For context, all of us, except one girl, met in first grade. We all had great friendships, so we created a group chat for our friend group with 4 members: Sarah, Ava, my best friend, and me. It was the 4 of us until 5th grade when we added another girl, Mia, who we were super close with. Again, everything was good, no fights, nothing. Then, in 7th grade, we added 2 girls. The first girl we will call Sophia, and the second, Anna. We added Sophia, and not long after, Anna. We had a few childish fights with Sophia, but nothing serious. Anna moved here in 6th grade, and we became good friends and grew closer over time, so she also became a part of our friend group. A few months after adding Sophia and Anna, they started to hate each other, which resulted in a lot of fights between them and kind of separated the group into 2. But even with those fights, we made some awesome memories. One random afternoon, Anna randomly left the group chat. We all started to question her why she did it, and she said it was because of Sophia, but she wanted to hang out with Sarah and Ava. Sarah and Ava didn't want that because they met the real her. After Anna left, Sarah and Ava distanced themselves from Anna. She still wanted to hang out and stuff, but they denied her. She left in December, and for the whole month, we were planning to get rid of her. We planned a sleepover at Mia's place in January. At the sleepover, somebody had to call her and just say, "Hey, we don't want to hang out with you anymore," and just end the friendship completely. Nobody had the courage to call her, so I did. I called her and told her that we didn't like her personality and the way she acts and wanted to stop all contact. She just said okay, and that was it. After that call, we had a great night blasting music on the roof, laughing, talking, and so on. After she left, she started spreading rumors that we were super toxic jerks, and we kicked her from the friend group. She left. That didn't bother us or upset us, because we had each other. Our friend group was great again, no fights, nothing. We didn't talk to Anna for about 3 months. It was a bit harder since Sarah and Ava went to the same class, but they managed. But in early April, Sarah and Ava said that they were friends again and had been hiding it for a few weeks. They had one talk with her and said that she had changed completely. It had been 3 months. That day we had a big fight, and Sarah and Ava left the friend group. We talked it out, and after a week or so, they were back. But just after that, Sophia told us that she was also friends with her again and that her mind changed in a few minutes. Before all that friends again nonsense, they were talking trash about her for 3 months. Then Sophia leaked the group chat to Anna, and she sent it to my teacher, and I had big problems with my parents at home, and after that day, the friend group was officially destroyed. Sarah, Ava, and Sophia on one side, and me, my best friend, and Mia on the other. Then we just kind of had one of those fake friendships until late April. Then I found out that Sophia told Anna about my suicide attempts. She confronted me because I talked trash about her, and when I told her I knew that she told Anna about my attempts, she said that she already had a suspicion. We ended all contact that day. After that day, Sarah, Ava, and Sophia became good friends with Anna, and Mia found new friends. Now, all of my childhood friends left me and my best friend for some girl they've known for a year. Now they snitch on me to my teachers, but they know I have family issues, and I get into a lot of trouble. Also, them and their new friend group, a lot of guys, think I'm a Satanist because I'm a metalhead and some other assumptions. It is really sad to see my childhood friends turn into one of those pick-me girls that want the attention of the boys and lose them. My best memories are with them, and now they are just strangers that won't even look at me in the hallway. But my best friend is still here, and I can't explain how grateful I am for her. I'm a 23-year-old female and I've been in therapy for a year now. I've talked with my therapist about majority of the things I am going to discuss, and over time I did see some improvement, but now I'm back at square one. Recently, something happened that completely triggered me, and now I just feel hopeless. Last month, I had surgery, and I was supposed to have an ovarian cyst removed from my ovary, but the surgery did not go as planned, and I ended up losing a fallopian tube and diagnosed with stage 3 endometriosis. I was told that I may still be able to have children, but there will be some difficulties. And unfortunately, a month later I already feel as if I can feel another cyst growing because my ovaries constantly throb and feel swollen. Having children is very important to me. I've always dreamed of one day being able to have my own family that I will love and they love me in return. Finding out there's a possibility I might not be able to have children has completely shattered me. I feel as if this event has confirmed the fact that I am unlovable. It seems as if anything involving love it gets ripped away from me, or I'm completely rejected from it. My therapist thinks I shouldn't just accept the fact that I can't have kids, but still remain hopeful because there is some possibility I could, but that's honestly too painful. If I keep that hope alive and it doesn't happen, it will destroy me mentally and emotionally. It's the same as dating. I've always told myself that one day I'll find someone who loves and cherishes me, but in the end I always get left or abused. There is no one for me, it's just wishful thinking, and I get disappointed every time. Right about now, I feel broken in entirety. I was honestly doing very well for myself. I bought my first vehicle cash, I graduated last May with a bachelor's, I just started working in a job within my professional career, and I was planning to go back to school next fall to obtain my master's. I felt happy and stable for once, and now I've fallen on my face. A part of me wants to just throw in the towel and be done, but another part of me feels as if I need to keep going because I do deserve to live. I just want to experience something new instead of being hurt all the time. I know life comes with good and bad, but I just want a moment of time where I can finally experience more of the good. So I guess what I'm asking is, could anyone give me some advice or tips on healing? I don't want to give up yet, I just feel broken. This will probably be a very long post, so I'll break everything into sections that I would like to address. I come from a dysfunctional family. If you asked, my family would tell you that we all love each other and we are one perfect family, but that is delusional. We all love each other, but it's a toxic love, not pure. For starters, at age 4, my father started exposing porn to me. The first time it happened, I had woken out of my sleep and looked over at the TV, and there was porn up there and my dad was asleep. For a very long time, I just dismissed it because I felt like he had done it accidentally and just fell asleep. However, looking back, he had watched porn while I was in the room or close by enough to see on multiple occasions as a little girl. He never made an effort to even change the channel when he would be watching this stuff, so I know it was intentional. Soon after he began exposing me to porn, I became hypersexual. I never really knew what I was doing, but more so copying what I had been shown. One day, there was an incident with a cousin of mine and I got in trouble by my mom for kissing him. My mother beat me and began asking me if anyone was touching me. And naturally, I responded no because my dad wasn't molesting me or touching me inappropriately, or at least, not in a way that 4-year-old me could identify. I never thought to mention this to my mom because I didn't know he wasn't supposed to be watching it around me. I didn't know what sex was. Over time my behavior worsened and my mom immediately began to point fingers at my dad, yelling at him and saying that he was molesting me. My dad always denied and eventually my mom left it alone but decided to just start beating me every time I behaved in a sexual manner. It wasn't until I was about 7 years old, when I had gotten in trouble at school for behaving sexually inappropriate with another little girl in the school's bathroom, that my dad stopped showing me pornography. He suddenly became very concerned with making sure all content in the household was kid appropriate, but now looking back, he just didn't want to get caught because there was investigation going on with both families of the children involved, and he knew that I had gotten older and might be able to articulate that I had learned those behaviors from him. Eventually, after he stopped showing me, I stopped being so overly hypersexual and actually behaved like a normal child. But at age 9, my brother began molesting me. The molestation lasted from around 9 to 11, but I never told anyone because I was afraid I would be blamed or that I might be accused of lying. I just swept it under the rug, and for years I've always just told myself he was also a child as a way to cope, but it doesn't take away the fact that I felt used and violated. I understand that he may have been abused as well, but still till this day, he behaves in an inappropriate manner. He doesn't touch me anymore, but he's always staring at my breast and butt, and it's creepy. After my brother began molesting me, for some odd reason my dad completely stopped talking to me. Despite his behavior, my dad and I were very close, but immediately after the molestation began, he kind of just started treating me like I didn't exist anymore. Even my mom noticed and talked to him about ignoring me multiple times. I never realized that what my dad was doing was sexual abuse. I just always pushed it aside. It wasn't until college where I took a class on child welfare and child abuse that I learned knowingly exposing children to porn is abuse. Meanwhile, I was being sexually abused in my household. I also have an older sister, who was my very first bully. My sister is 10 years older than me, and for as long as I can remember she has always been my biggest critic. Anything I did as a child, whether good or bad, she had a negative comment. She has always used her age to push me around, and as I've gotten older, she's gotten worse. Over the years, she has body shamed me, made jokes about my mental illness, called me all sorts of sluts and just plain berated me. Anytime I have ever tried to stand up to my sister, she speaks over me and yells, and I just shut down. My family always takes her side and just says to ignore her, but it's hurtful. Not to mention, when I was 14 years old, freshman in high school, someone decided that it would be fun to circulate a rumor around the school that I was a 4 and slept with everybody. Now I understand the stereotype that every person who has been sexually abused is hypersexual, but that wasn't the case for me. I battled hypersexuality as a very young child, but once I learned what sex was and that it was for adults, I pretty much moved forward and just didn't give it second thoughts. These rumors lasted my whole time in high school. Even teachers joined in on the bullying. I was told that I would never amount to anything more than a 4, or that I would get pregnant and drop out. So many people told me that no man would ever love me or date me because I was known as just a slut. And honestly, all of this broke me. I've always wondered what I did wrong to deserve it. I was very quiet in school, never dressed inappropriately, and didn't even talk to boys. I was still a virgin then and still a virgin now at 23. Even though my parents were strict and I wasn't allowed to go anywhere but to school and back, my mom still thinks I'm lying and was actually sleeping with multiple people at my school. And I would like to note my mom was a stay-at-home parent, so she home with me 24/7, yet her speculation is that I would have sex at school. And any time I have ever cried about this situation, my mom would yell at me and say, "That's not trauma, get over it." And this is where I've learned to face the fact that maybe I am unlovable. I feel like everybody thinks I'm only good for sex. My own mom always told me men would only want sex from me. If my own father and brother couldn't love me in a pure way, why would anyone else? And because of that, I have a big fear of sex and won't give my body away to anyone because I'm afraid of being used. I seem to be rejected from everyone. My family mistreats me. I have no friends. All of my previous relationships have been dysfunctional or abusive. There is no one who loves me. I know it's easy to say, love yourself, but when you've been through so much abuse, sometimes you just want a support system or even just a hug. I now suffer with anxiety and OCD, and honestly, I never feel safe. I'm constantly waiting for something or someone to hurt me. I just don't get why I'm unlovable. I'm an 18-year-old male, graduating from high school at the end of this month. 2 nights ago, my dad blindsided me with the news that his stepdaughter, a 14-year-old female, has an award ceremony for a competition she won in another state, scheduled for the same day as my graduation. She really wants him to be there. He explained that he couldn't possibly attend both events and, since his wife and their children will be going, he feels the need to be there as well. He promised to make it up to me and suggested we could celebrate at another time. I still live with him, though not for much longer. My mom passed away when I was 7, and my dad remarried when I was around 11 or 12. It's been a few years since then. His stepdaughter never knew her biological father, so my dad has embraced her as his own. Over the last 5 or 6 years, he has often prioritized her needs. It's not always overt, but the favoritism is palpable. Father-son time was indefinitely postponed, and instead, my dad insisted we include her in our activities. However, he also dedicated time to her alone for father-daughter moments. When I addressed this imbalance with my dad, he countered that I wasn't making enough effort to get closer to her. He wanted us to bond as a family and didn't want me to focus solely on my relationship with him. He has chosen to attend her dance recitals over my basketball games when they coincide. Regardless of which event was scheduled first, he invariably opts for hers. On family days, when he and his wife say the kids can choose, he consistently selects her preferences over mine. He claims it's because they'll be the most enjoyable for everyone, but in reality, as he admits later, he caters to whatever his little princess desires. Our refrigerator and shower broke simultaneously. With his stepdaughter's birthday approaching, he diverted funds from my birthday savings to cover these expenses, ensuring she received her desired gifts, a Barbie house and a complete fashion set, which cost, I believe, around $250. By the time my birthday arrived, he hadn't replenished the funds, so he compensated with a $30 Steam gift card instead of the new computer monitor and keyboard he had promised me, gifts that were initially pledged by my grandparents. When my dad announced he wouldn't attend my graduation to support her, I confronted him, stating there's no compensation for such an absence and that he should forget about being part of my life moving forward. He insisted he would make it up to me, but I expressed that I will always be secondary to his little princess, and I refused to accept that. I declared that he has neglected me for the last time. Despite his pleas for reason, I walked away. I then invited both sets of grandparents, who agreed to attend. His wife suggested I could have joined them and foregone the ceremony to support my sister. I retorted that her daughter isn't my sister and that I no longer wished to support their family. I assured her I would soon be independent of them. She labeled me selfish and accused me of denying her daughter a father. I'll omit a lot of unnecessary backstory. After my parents retired and moved south, I rented their house at a slightly below market rate. The plan was for me to save up and eventually purchase the house at a great price. They would then give the money to my brother as his share of their estate. My share consisted of the subsidized rent and the highly favorable purchase agreement. Everyone agreed this was fair until my brother's wife accrued debts they couldn't pay, leading to the loss of their home and the need for assistance. Loving my brother and nephews, I agreed when my mother asked if they could move in, after discussing it with my husband. We were in the process of adopting 2 siblings, but it wasn't final yet. It was supposed to be temporary, so it seemed reasonable. The prospect of having the rent for a few months was appealing, as it would significantly aid our down payment and expenses. They moved in February. Come March, I transferred half my usual rent to my parents. My mother called, questioning the missing half. I had assumed Brad was covering it. Wrong. I was expected to pay the full rent. I questioned why I should finance their stay in my house. My mother retorted that it wasn't mine yet and accused me of being disrespectful. Recognizing the situation, I paid the rent and began house hunting. We had saved a substantial amount and didn't need a large, high-maintenance house. We paid the full rent in April, but moved into a house we had purchased, which was ready for immediate occupancy. With stable incomes and a 25% down payment, the process was smooth. The only drawback was the smaller yard, but with a public park just a block away, it wasn't a significant loss. I informed my parents of our move. On May 1st, my mother called for the rent. I explained I no longer lived there. She accused me of breaking our agreement. I countered that our deal never included subsidizing my brother's living costs. She claimed they needed my rent to pay the mortgage. I suggested she ask my brother, who was still employed. She mentioned his debts. I suggested his wife find employment. To summarize a lengthy discussion, she accused me of being stingy and cruel to both my brother and my parents. We're settling into our new home and have decided to distance ourselves from them for now. However, I'm contemplating whether I might be in the wrong. I informed my parents of our move. On May 1st, my mother called for the rent. I explained I no longer lived there. She accused me of breaking our agreement. I countered that our deal never included subsidizing my brother's living costs. She claimed they needed my rent to pay the mortgage. I suggested she ask my brother, who was still employed. She mentioned his debts. I suggested his wife find employment. To summarize a lengthy discussion, she accused me of being stingy and cruel to both my brother and my parents. We're settling into our new home and have decided to distance ourselves from them for now. However, I'm contemplating whether I might be in the wrong. I had plans to go out to dinner with my sister as we do every month. She lives in my hometown and I live in the next state over with my BF. We're about 35 minutes to an hour apart depending on traffic. We agreed to meet closer to hometown with my mom. One thing about her, she's always late. I expect she'll always be at least 30 minutes late, but it's been up to a few hours. And not just random plans, weddings, and graduations too. It's been brought up in the past by Mom and I, but she always brushes it off and gets upset. My BF drove me over. I can't drive and he offered to drop me before he had to head out for plans of his own near home and come back when he was done. I assumed after dinner we would just hang out at her house either way. Get to the place and start calling my sister. She usually doesn't say if she's gonna be late, but if my mom is with her she does, and I hadn't heard anything. I get Mom a few minutes later and she says they're behind because it took a while to get my nephew who's almost one ready and my sister got in the shower later than expected. I didn't even know my nephew was coming and she usually tells me if he is. Her husband was apparently there to let Mom in when she showed up but went back to sleep as soon as she got there. Not sure why he couldn't help get baby ready, but that's none of my business. Checking maps, the estimated arrival time was 35 minutes. Factoring in securing the baby and using the stroller or carrier, I was looking at a 40-minute wait. Moreover, we had reservations, made by her, not me. Unfamiliar with the restaurant, I didn't know their policy on incomplete parties. With no waiting area inside, I'd have to stand outside. I wasn't inclined to wait alone for 40 minutes. She never makes her friends wait this long, so I don't understand why it's acceptable to do this to my mom and me. While speaking to my mom, who was attempting to change the reservation online, I reached my limit. If we agree on a time, we should honor it. 5 or 10 minutes late is tolerable, but this was too much. I informed my mom I was returning home, unwilling to stew at the table and pretend I wasn't upset upon their arrival, as I had done previously. She sounded hurt and angry, but agreed to go home as well. It's been a few weeks since I've spoken to my sister, and my mom prefers not to intervene. However, I've made it clear I expect an apology from my sister. My mom acknowledged the issue during their ride home, but she hasn't said much else. It's unreasonable to be consistently late due to poor time management. My sister wants to blame the baby's readiness, which I would accept if this hadn't been an ongoing issue long before my nephew's birth.